Hey, everybody. I'm trying to get everything working here. Hi, everybody. I'm Martin. I gotta get the camera angled just a little bit. Right, there we go. And I am hosting this live here just so that I can teach you guys how to make some things from my homeland. I'm originally from Nigeria, and I want to show you a couple of recipes. I like to make certain things during the new year, and so we're going to be making a couple of things today. We're going to start off, we're going to be making something we call egusi soup. All the cultures in Africa eat something called fufu, and the things that differentiate our different ethnic groups is the type of soup you dip it in. And so I'm going to be making one made out of egusi, which is a melon seed. It's one of my favorite soups. I'm going to be making a Nigerian red stew. And then I'm also going to be making moi moi because it is the new year and we're supposed to eat black-eyed peas, and they're made from black-eyed peas. And so we're going to go ahead and get started with a couple of things. There's going to be a lot of multitasking and things like that. So the first thing I'm going to go do is get my chicken that from the other table that is defrosting right now because I have chicken in the freezer and spinach. And so I'm going to bring those in uh, as they were frozen solid, and you don't want to be cooking really, really, really warm meat. So it's just right here. I'm going to put it off screen right here. So the first thing we're going to do is one of the things that we do in Nigerian cooking is we have different kinds of peppers. We have different kinds of things. Hey, thanks so much, Knights of OFG. Thank you for joining us. Um, and so what we're going to try to do is we have a traditional pepper that we use. It's an African pepper. I don't know what Scovilles it is. They usually come in jars like this. It's really, really fine to see. In fact, let's do the other cam so that we can easily see it a little bit better. And I'm hoping my cam is working. It looks like it is misbehaving right now. I gotta get that camera up because it's all of a sudden not behaving right. And I need to just exit the studio mode. And hopefully when I turn off that camera and turn it back on, because otherwise you guys aren't going to be able to see what I'm doing. There we go. Um, and so this is what I wanted to show you. This is the Nigerian pepper. It is, there's a Cameroon version that's really dark brown. Ours is red and it's very hot. I add a little bit of this for heat, but I like there's a sort of aroma with peppers, and I don't like food really that hot. And so what I normally like to do is I like to have a hint of pepper with a very little bit of heat. I'm the weird, I'm from the southeast, I'm originally, and so I'm an Igbo, and we actually usually like our food hot. I'm weird, and my family's weird. We don't like our food that peppery and that hot. So, but I like the hint of the spice of peppers. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to be putting a low Scoville. Scovilles are how you measure peppers. We're going to be roasting poblano peppers. So these are poblano peppers, and from the grocery store, we're going to roast them and grind them. We're going to use this in all three of our dishes, and I'm actually going to use this red pepper inside of the moi moi, which is our bean curd that's steamed. And so we're going to bake this. We're going to roast this on broil. So first thing I'm going to do is we're going to turn our oven to broil. I'm gonna put it on the high broiler. Um, I'm just gonna stick it in because in my oven it doesn't even warm up. And I'm actually gonna put it in the lowest tray because this gas oven is really, really hot. Um, so the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take off what we call the okporoko, and you're like, what is that sound? That is a thing we call stockfish. So I have a sample for you guys to take a look at. Put it around here. There we go. And so stockfish is something that we eat in Nigeria, and it comes from, let's see if I can zoom out just here we go, zoom in. And so it comes from the seas of Norway. So I don't know if you guys can see this. I'm actually going to take it out of the bag. We get it dried, and so what's interesting is Nigeria is a English colonized country. And what's interesting is that we don't really deal with Norway at all. But this fish is only caught, it's some kind of big fish that is caught off of the coast of Norway. And there's an explicit export relationship between Nigeria and Norway to get them. So you can either get them this, and what we do is we take the fish and we dry it. I mean, this thing will give you a concussion. It is almost desiccated, and that means it can last years. Um, and you can get them in the fish, and we just cut pieces of it. It's very expensive to buy here in the United States. Or you can get it in chips. So this is stockfish chips, and again in our language we call it okporoko. And so the key thing is, in order to use it, it adds a great flavor to your soups. You have to rehydrate it, so it takes at least an hour plus. And so I have been cooking the Roku for a very, very, very long time. Going to switch to close-up so you can see. So um, right here we have uh, moved. So I'm waiting for the camera to catch up. I'm hoping it hasn't gotten stuck again, as it seems to happen on this thing that every once in a while it will get stuck. Got to get my equipment working a little bit better. So I'm going to doing this regularly. There we go. It just kind of gets stuck. So this is what it looks like when you boil it. And I filled this pot up all the way to the top. And as you can see how much water is left, it's just kind of interesting. And so it's very important that you rehydrate the stockfish. So I'm just going to keep it going right now. Well, I've taken it off. I'm just going to keep it off to the side so it can just be cooling. We're just going to drain it and throw it in with the meats as we start making our stew. I'm just going to keep an eye on a couple of things. So what we're going to do is, because we're making stew and we're making where's my main screen? There we go. Because we're making stew and we're making a couple of other dishes, I'm going to start the heavy meats cooking first. That's what's important, because you want to make sure that you have the everything that you need to do inside of this. The goat meat is one of the things I'm going to be doing, and then I'm going to be doing chuck beef. It takes a long time to boil, so that's why we're going to put them in the pot first, and we're going to season them with onions to start off with. So let's get that zoom out. It looks like I need to move my camera just a hair to the right. I can see a little bit more when I'm standing here. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to go get our nifty little knife. I use a Schmidt knife, and first thing I always do, since I'm going to be cutting a lot of meat and stuff like that, is I always sharpen it. I picked up one of these sharpeners just for Black Friday and Home Goods. So do the coarse sharp, because I'm going to be cutting a lot of stuff. Cut away from your body so you don't cut yourself. And I'm going to use the fine grade sharpener. There we go. Ah, good. All right. So that's there. Let's see. We're going to get 2 onions because one for each dish. And you want 2 very large. For me, you want 2 large onions if you can get them. It's actually, I might actually add a third. Yeah, I actually need to wash some things in here that I didn't realize got left in here. And so I hope everybody's had a great Christmas, uh, Hanukkah, all the different holidays. We're now in the new year. Uh, I'm hoping 2022 brings prosperity, joy to everybody, a lot more love, a lot less vitriol, and a lot less COVID. It would be very nice to say we're in the post-pandemic era because we're not quite there yet. At this point in time, we have a new variant that's kind of going rampant. Several of my friends have just gotten breakthrough cases, so it's a little scary out there on a certain level. But I choose to hope in this new year. So, we're going to be flipping cameras periodically, but I'm going to dice 2 of these onions. Get the moi moi. And the other place. Oh, that's another thing. So actually, as I dice this, I almost got my steps out of order. So one of the things that we also do, because it takes a little bit of time, is we want to remove the skins off the black-eyed peas. Now, one of the nice things that I was able to do is the Nigerian stores. We have actually African food stores here in Texas. They actually sell dried black-eyed peas that already have their skins removed. Most of their skins. There's actually a couple of them in here. So either way, the process is the same. If you use this, you still have to work it because there's still some skins of the black-eyed peas in there. So for the moi moi, we're going to take we're going to do about 2.5 cups of dried beans, and that could be whole black-eyed peas or this version. You still have to soak them in warm water. Yeah, it's coldish warm water. And they need to be there for about 15 to 20 minutes, depending on them. And what will happen is that will cause the skin to come off. Now, and you'll also notice the water rise. So we're just going to kind of get that going right now and just kind of put that here so that it's to the side while it's soaking. So just fill it with water, give it a stir, and just leave it. It will start to do what it needs to do. There's still some skins, even though it comes technically skinless. There's still some skins on it, and so you want to get all of it off. So even this version is just you don't have to work as hard when you are doing this. So we're going to get our skins off. One of the things I like to do is I like to use a trash bag here, and when I'm doing that, that helps me make less frequent trips to the trash can. All right. Going to check the other console. And oh, good. So what's interesting is I'm gonna minimize this other screen so I can actually see the chat in case anybody says anything. That way I can view. That is interesting. Okay, just getting my Twitch screens and stuff like that all aligned because we're actually streaming to more than one location. There we go. All right. So we're just gonna get rid of all these crazy, ugly, slightly rotting parts. There we go. Dice that. Get that last piece of soft skin off the onion. Depends on the onion if you need to take more than one layer. You just want a rough chop there. This is not fine cooking. You just want a rough chop. Um, let's get that camera aligned better. And we'll get that camera aligned and working better. I'm hoping that works a little bit better. So now you can see my hands. There we go. Uh, there we go. All right. And definitely keep an eye on those peppers. Yep. Oh yeah, they're just starting to singe. Again, what happens when you roast them is the skin, you don't want the skin of the peppers in. So we're gonna put our first onion in this pot. This is gonna be our agusi soup. I'm actually noticing there's actually not enough onion in there, so I'm gonna take another half. Just I can see it by eye. These are onions are a little smaller than I wanted, and so we're gonna keep putting that in there. I'm gonna put this half, and there's just a slight amount of rot here, so we're just gonna cut that off and toss it. All right. It's funny, my husband just came back from the store and he is yelling at the cats because the cats have done something naughty. I can hear him carrying on already. There we go. All right, now we're going to cook the meats in an order. So the toughest meat is goat meat, and I have goat meat that I have purchased from our town here called Food Town. It's one of the few places that has it, so we're just going to add all of that in. When I buy it, I refrigerate it for a significant, freeze it so I can have a lot of it because it's not easy to find. We're going to fill the goat meat and onions with water. I'll bring it to about a half a pot because it's going to cook a while, and that water is going to reduce, but we're also going to season it. But we want to get that boiling going. Actually, I need more water than that. There we go. All right. Right now, we're just going to have it going. We're going to initiate. Like I said, keep an eye on those peppers. You got to turn them after a while. So they're doing okay. If you want to do them faster, you can put them on the upper rack. I just didn't want to do that because I know I'm going to be talking to you guys and working things. So I didn't want to get this confused and distracted and then forget, and then I have burnt peppers happening. That is not good eats. So I'm going to dice another 1.5. Let's take that in. You can't ever have way too many onions going on. So there we go. Getting that soft bit of the onion out. Oh yeah. So yep. This is coolness. Did y'all have a happy new year? I'm hoping you guys did. Like, what did y'all do? Just wanted to hear, type in the chat wherever you guys did. I'm curious. We just, I mean, I went live yesterday for my first live on sort of the setup. I've been doing some Facebook lives before, but I wanted to do a multi-stream, and so I was testing my new equipment and setup. I got some more tweaks that I got to make to it. And so what I was doing is cooking cheesecake yesterday. We have like several cheesecakes. Um, One of our viewers right now got a cheesecake. I hope that was good. I don't know if they've tasted it yet. I usually make cheesecake for New Year's for friends and family, so it's my sort of tradition I've been doing since I was like, oh, good God, 14. Um, and that's just one of those things. I just realized I was going to do that. There we go. Uh-huh. So, yep. Like I said, keep dicing and checking. All right. Now, we shall put all of these onions in here. Still have more onions to go for all of the dishes. We use a lot of it. Like I said, it's just a rough chop. And then, of course, for the stew, we also have goat meat. So, here's its goat meat. We're going to be putting in. Because I like the taste of beef and goat meat in my Nigerian dishes. And it's best to use your meats fully defrosted. Don't if you put them frozen, they don't cook evenly, and that's just not cool. That will make you have uneven sets of meat. So, a little tip: always fill your pots with hot water. It saves you some boiling time. All right, getting there. There we go. All right. So now, let's put this. We have a giant stew pot here. That's going to be for our moi moi. So we're just going to put that out of the way for until we need it. There we go. All right. So now that we have this, we're going to start adding seasonings. So we're going to add some seasoned salt and regular salt. Seasoned salt has a good flavor, but it's not salt. So we just put a little bit of salt because we can always add more later, and a little bit to a lot of seasoned salt. We're going to do this in both. Both start the same way, but then they start deviating when we start adding more spices. So seasoned salt, and then a little bit of salt, and cover them so that they boil faster. We're actually not done. We're going to also add a little bit of, we're going to add some thyme. So I got some thyme. I'm going to add a lot of that to the stew, but just a little bit to the egusi, because it's not a flavor we use at home that often. And that has our meat boiling, so we're going to do that, get our meat going. Now it's probably time to check on your peppers. Yep. So as you roast them, the skin is going to start coming off. And that's a good thing. So you're going to have to flip them. And so just kind of putting them here in the close-up cam so that you can kind of get a good look. So what we're going to do is we're actually just going to flip them over. They're not that hot. You should use tongs, but kind of at this stage they're okay. It's when they start spewing, which will be in the next phase, that you need to use tongs. So just flip them around so that they are the next side is exposed. And since I want these to cook quicker, I'm going to put them up one rack. Like I said, you're putting them in broil. You're not baking them. You're putting them in broil. Um, and not baking them, so they cook really quickly. We're going to take that. While that is cooking, because I'm gonna be adding chuck beef to boil, I'm just gonna get that ready. So I'm just gonna chop all of these pieces of chuck. So I have this giant piece of chuck that came from, I got it at, I think I got it for $2.99 a pound, which is unheard of in this time for chuck. There's, our supply chain problems happening with the pandemic. It kind of makes no sense. It really doesn't make any sense what's going on here with the pandemic with the supply chain. So I am going to keep these here. So you want the chuck fully defrosted, but it's like, oh yeah, this is going to go in really well. So oh yeah, gotta get that stupid little moisture thing. I normally cut a large piece like that off, and I like to, I like to do irregular cube. Well, they're not cubes, but you're like trying to make stew meat like you can buy inside of the grocery store where they sell them. I just like a little larger chunks, and so I do them irregular chunks, kind of like that. Um, and so kind of want to get those irregular chunks going. There we go. This is going to be in both the stew and the egusi soup. Oh, I have bone here. Okay. So there's a interesting, nice piece of cartilage. Cartilage is very tasty. I know that sounds weird to a lot of people, but it is. Adds such good flavor. Oh, and we're going to add the bone. That bone is good eats. You can tell I'm a big fan of Alton Brown. He had this show called Good Eats, which is a great cooking show that combined the idea of Mr. Wizard, which is a show I grew up with, that explains the science of cooking with interesting, interesting takes on technique. Okay, so this is going to get interesting. So we're going to break this bone so that I can get better chunks. There we go. And let's see, what's happening here? Because it's oh, I see. Sometimes you have to break. There we go. You gotta get creative. There we go. To break the piece of chuck. I don't know what part of the cow the chuck comes from. So, anybody knows, put it in the chat. Alright, so there's this long bone here. I'm actually going to put it into the stew. I'll go into the stew, and then we're just going to cut these into chunks. And I have another piece of chuck right here. It's to go, and like I said, we're making two big dishes. So my waters are starting to boil. I'm actually going to put all of this in one spot. It'll fit. There we go. And yes, that's keeping it real. Like I said, I wanted to share my favorite Nigerian recipes. I'll be doing all kinds of stuff over the time. I love to cook Thai food. I like to cook Vietnamese food. I love to cook Italian food. So I'm eclectic in my culinary adventures. I want to expand my baking. Not the best baker. It's one of those goals. Not quite a big goal for 2022, but it's just something I do want to grow and get better at. All right. Now we have our meats completely chopped up. And now I'm going to get rid of some of this nasty, bloody stuff. I'm actually going to keep this little plate here because it's what we're going to as we peel our peppers, this is a great, um, nice, useful cooking tray for our peppers. So I'm just going to keep that there. I take the meats off screen so they can just sit there. They'll sit there they're still partially frozen, so they'll be fully defrosted by the time we put them into the water. All right, I'm gonna do a quickie wash of our cutting board because there's all sorts of stuff we're about to start doing. I'm putting it still in the middle rack because I do not want to have them burn and lose. Oh, this is good stuff. Yep, our egusi soup. Um, Meat is starting to boil, so that is excellent. Excellent. You're learning as well. Thanks. You can almost smell it from there. Thanks. So, we're making, like I said, three things today. We're making moi moi, which is a blend from black eyed peas. It's a traditional. So, for Americans who don't know what moi moi is, it has the consistency of kind of like a flan. Except it's not sweet. It's very savory. And so it's made from bean paste. We take beans, we're going to grind them together, add some spices, then we're going to put it into a container and steam it for about half an hour to an hour until it's done. We'll add all kinds of things, and it's just this really nice savory dish. And then we're going to have a Nigerian red stew as well. And then we're also going to be making a gusi soup, E-G-U-I-S-I soup. And just so you guys know what these are, I'm going to go over right now as we're just waiting for a few things to happen, some of the spices that we use in Nigeria. So this spice, they're all in bags. We get them from the African food store. This spice is called dawa dawa, D-A-A-D-A-W-A, D-A-W-A. And I don't remember the plant it comes from when I was home. And what we do, where it comes from, I think is the seed of a specific plant, and then we grind it. That adds some spice. We use that in the egusi soup. I already went over the stockfish, so for those of you who missed, we have stockfish that we have boiled. In our language, that is called okporoko. And this is what stockfish looks like. What we do is we take it, it's dried, so you have to reconstitute it by boiling. This fish is a fish that comes off of the coast of Norway, and it's still a mystery to me how we have it in Nigeria, because Nigerians eat the hell out of this stuff. And we don't have any Norwegian influence, yet there is a whole ministry and everything dedicated just for the purposes of this fish. That is I think, our only trade with the country of Norway that I know of, other than other things involving oil, because Nigeria is an oil-producing country, as is Norway. So we have our okporoko. We have been boiling that before the stream started, and so that's sitting here off screen in my pot right here. It will be added to the stew when we're ready. And then I wanted to show you the other spices we use. We use something called crayfish or crawfish, but it's not crawfish. It's actually cray, C-R-A-Y-F-I-S-H. And what it is some kind of crawdad, very similar to the shrimps and crawdads that you have in New Orleans. And what we do is we take it and we grind it into a powder. And so, it's like it's you have to try it. Yeah, I agree. Um, and so this is a spice that's going to give a lot of different things its flavor. We'll be putting it in all three dishes. For the egusi soup, it is egusi, which is an interesting melon. Egusi is a specific type of melon, like a watermelon. You can get it dry. You just take the seeds, they're like pumpkin seeds, and then you take them and you grind them, and you get this powder. And this actually thickens and has a specific flavor. So it's not any type of melon, it's a very specific type of melon, and I don't know what the melon is. But we take the seeds, you put them out like you're doing pumpkins, and you dry them. And once you dry them, you bake them, and then they kind of get sort of desiccated, and then you grind it and you get that powder. We're also going to be adding maybe a little bit of the African pepper. This is not a normal, this is hotter than cayenne pepper. but it has a different smoky flavor to it. And we'll be using a little bit of that. Um, but I'm hoping the flavor of the peppers that we are roasting comes through. So we are watching our our peppers are doing rather well. I'm going to turn one of them on its other side, see if I can nestle it, because I want to get all the sides roasted. Let's see if I can switch cams um, and get all of these sides roasted. So I'm going to do something like this because I want to get, if you can see, this side is not cooked as much because the poblano peppers was not spherical round. It was very flat. So the sides are the parts that suffer. So this is doing good. This pepper just needs one more side going. And we're going to do something like this, sort of buttress it up. And yes, it's a little hot, that's why I'm touching them. Normally, this is not something tongs do very well. There we go. What we want is that exposed to the heat of the broiling oven. So I'm just going to put that back, and I'm actually going to put it on the top rack so it can go really quickly. I'm going to set up my trivet so that they can cool. So this is my trivet. I'm going to put it back here on top of my freezer, which is I often use as a surface to cool things. So I have a deep freezer. We're just going to use it as a surface so that when I bring that, we can cool down the peppers so that they're cool before we grind them and put them into things. So at this point, it's time to start preparing for the moi moi. So one of the things that we do is, if you remember, I told you we're going to take black-eyed peas. You want to remove the skins. Now, I've already purchased a version that has the skins removed, but they're not all removed. So we're going to switch to the close-up cam so that we can see kind of what I'm talking about. Oops, actually, we're going to move this here. Because what's happening is, I don't know if you can see this as easily, but this black-eyed pea still has its eye in there. And so it doesn't matter, even if you buy them with most of the skins removed, they still have their skins. So what you do, the way you remove the skins, even if you got a plain bag or you get the sort of mostly removed skin bag that I have, is you put them in water, and that actually inflates the black-eyed peas. You notice it started right here. And it has come up and risen. So what we're just going to do is we're going to use water to remove the skins. So what you do is you fill it, and this is where you use cold water. You start off with warm water to hydrate it, but now you use cold water and you sift. And what you're going to do is you're actually going to use your hands and knead. You're just going to knead the black-eyed peas, and the skins just start popping off. This is how you would do it if you had the full skins on. And actually, you can use them in use your blender on the lowest settings with a lot of water, and it will actually start removing the skins. If you have to, it's literally equal parts. Actually, it's almost a 1.5 to 1. So 1 part of beans and 1.5 parts water. And so we're just gonna sift. Let the pieces of the chaff come out of the water. And then we're just going to put more water in. We're actually going to stir a little bit because there's some of the skins actually float to the top, but sometimes they get hidden. So I don't know if you guys can see it coming out of the sink. I'm gonna try to get this thing out of the way so it's easier to see. There we go. And somebody said something. This is like a whole new world of cooking to me. I know. It's very different how we cook things in Africa. And by the way, Africa is not unified. And what I mean by that is, my country alone, country of Nigeria, we speak over 200 languages. Yes, I said it, 200, over 200 languages. These are not dialects. These are languages. Each language has 5 to 10 dialects. It's kind of crazy. We have a joke that we say at home that the Tower of Babel might have been in Nigeria. And so every single language is separated. It's basically a definition of an ethnic group. Each ethnic group has its own foods, its own culture, its own ways of cooking. and it's a lot. So I'm from the Igbo, the east, southeast. We're the third largest ethnic group in Nigeria. Um, and even we have differences. We have like 5 dialects of Igbo. There's actually one that I barely sometimes understand. Uh, which is my native tongue, which there's no such thing as Nigerian. Nigerians speak English because we were colonized by the British, but each of us have one of those 200 languages that we speak. So I'm making Igbo food for you guys. And so as you can see, what I'm doing is I am removing the skins off of these black-eyed peas. As you can see, they're mostly done. So as I'm putting water in, I'm kneading, and the skins, I mean, the black-eyed peas will split in two, and the skins just kind of come off. Again, it's kind of something that people here don't know. They just eat it. And there's nothing wrong with the skin of black-eyed peas and eating. It just doesn't work in the particular dish I'm making. Moi moi, you just can't have that skin on it. So we're just going to do that. It's about 1 or 2 more washings is going to get it. There we go. Actually, that almost got it itself. Ah, okay. I can smell our peppers because we don't want to burn them because I moved them up a rack. Yep, oh, it's good I came in because now they are charred. No, and charred in a good way. They're not burnt. So you guys take a look. This is exactly what you want because the skins are going to pop off as soon as it cools. All of it is flamed off of the meat of the peppers. This is awesome. So we're going to take, these are done. You can turn off your oven. And we're going to put them on the trivet so they can cool. We'll come back to them in a little bit. This step of doing the peppers is not traditional Nigerian. We do not use poblano peppers at all. This is my version of things. Being that I grew up here, I'm actually originally from Nigeria. I'm a naturalized American citizen, and I grew up in the United States, so I have the influence of a lot of things that I've eaten. And when I had traditional Hispanic food here, especially living here in Texas, we have poblano peppers are used. We have to do things like chili rellenos and stuff like that. And so those flavors just sort of affected me. And I was like, you know what? I feel like these, even though it's not Nigerian to use a poblano pepper, I feel like it was going to work. And one day I tried it and it was like, oh my God, why haven't we been doing these things? Because those peppers will grow in Nigeria. Peppers will grow anywhere in it that normal peppers grow. We just usually don't have that variety at home. We grow bell peppers, and then we have these very tiny peppers that kind of look like habaneros that are very hot, but they're not habaneros. They're whatever that red stuff that I'm using. And then we have some chilies that look like the traditional Thai, but they're a little bit bigger than Thai peppers. Thai peppers are deadly. And then we have a big pepper that's almost like the ghost pepper. I don't know if you guys have seen the ghost peppers of India, the Bhut pepper. That's the hottest pepper in the world. It's actually a very big bell that grows. When you see it, it's kind of a big pepper, surprisingly, and it's hot as heck. So the good thing is we have now completely removed the skin off of our black-eyed peas. So that actually means that we're ready to begin the next step. So, oh, I didn't quite hit the off button. I thought I hit the off button, but it did not hit the off button because the oven is still on broiling. So we're also going to check our meats. Like I said, we're going to cook the goat meat because that's what we started off with. We're going to boil the goat meat until it's about 2/3 to 3/4 done, which takes a while. That's about 40 minutes sometimes, depending. So just kind of stir. And one of the things I like to do is I like to also taste the salt. Because remember we salted the water. You can always add salt. It's hard to take it away. There is a way. You can use dried onions to take salt away, but it changes your flavors. Oh, good. You want to make sure that you have the right level of salt. You don't want too much. You want a little less because some of the other spices like dawa dawa actually add salt. Yep, doing good. We good. So just gonna let things kind of boil on their own. So now that we have this, I'm gonna take this off screen. so that we can prepare our next pieces. So when we make moi moi, we're going to put water, oil, a little bit of seasoning, and pepper. We usually use a red pepper. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make moi moi in a large batch, and then we're going to put it in another container and mix it all together. So the first thing I want to do is I want to get the onions that we will be grinding, and we're going to use our mixer to do this. I'm sorry, not mixer, blender to do this. So I'm grabbing 2 onions. I have them on the table. I wanted to remove stuff from here so you can see. We're just going to get 2 onions peeled. Uh-oh. What is going on? Okay. I have a reminder on my Fitbit, and I was like, oh yeah, it's something I need to do. There we go. So we're just going to get our onions ready. We're not dicing them. We're just splitting because they're going straight into the blender with the black-eyed peas that we have chopped. So um, I just want to get the skins off, and quarter them is probably maybe 1/6 them is kind of what I'm going to do. So make sure that skin is off. Come on, there we go. And I'm gonna something like that. That's all we need, because they're just gonna go in and get blended. We just want to be able to add enough. Maybe one more in there. There we go. And so let's see. A wonderful thing to think of how food connects every culture in the world. Oh yes, abracadabra. Yeah, it's actually kind of interesting. The older I've gotten, the more and more I realize I think we're all the same. So I've been around the world, and I'm starting to see weird similarities everywhere, and I don't quite understand it, but it's like, so for example, in my culture, we have a rice dish that has a sauce on it. We call it jollof rice. It's usually a red sauce that is basically a red rice. Well, in the United States, we have a similar thing too. It's Cajun cooking. It's called jambalaya. If you go to India, they have a similar thing. It's called biryani. It's the same kind of concept. Usually there's a meat inside of that. And I'm like, wow, 3 different cultures have a similar thing. There's a version of that. The Spanish call it paella. I mean, it's a similar rice dish kind of everywhere. And I'm seeing certain recipes, certain kinds of things all over the place. Bread is another one of them. Everybody has a form of bread that are native to the place that we're at. So like, for example, in Spain, when you make a paella, you add saffron, which is the most expensive spice in the world. Saffron is the stamen, the top part of a flower called a crocus. And that's why it's so expensive, because it's hand-picked. Usually a lot of women, I think it's women typically, in the fields, just go out and pick it, and then they put it and dry it and bottle it and ship it around the world. But because of that, it's incredibly labor intensive. That's why it's so expensive. So it's what they put in paella. It makes the paella yellow. Beautiful spice. We don't have saffron in Nigeria. As a matter of fact, so we have different spices that are almost kind of, I'm not going to say like saffron, but we would use them very similarly in our versions of the same dishes that I think I'm seeing around the world. So now that I got my onions ready, the thing I'm waiting for a little bit is I want my peppers ready, and I need to get my oil so that I don't forget, because I oftentimes will make this and totally forget about the oil. And so you want regular vegetable oil. Don't use olive oil. I don't think olive oil and Nigerian food mix very well. I just tried it, and it wasn't a good thing. So I'm just getting my oil ready. We're not frying it. You actually add the oil directly into the mixture, as we do. And so yeah, I'm just kind of checking all the meats as they're going. It's kind of getting hot in here. So what we're going to do is we'll actually start without the peppers, because the reality is it's going to mix. We're going to add I actually like to add onions at the bottom so they get chopped first. Then we're going to put the beans, a set of beans, and we're actually going to add a lot. This is going to probably be 2 batches. Yeah, it's about 2 batches, so we'll do it in 2s. That means I'm going to add a little bit more onion. And I may have cut too many onions, but that's fine because we're going to use onions inside of the stew, so it's not a big deal. That's why I did it in this order. Then we're going to fill this with water. Not too much. You want it just below the level of the beans. You don't want too much water in there. And then normally I would add a red pepper right now, but I'm going to do that in the next batch because remember, all of this sauce is going to go into the same bowl, and then we're going to mix it all together with spices. So you're going to, well, you know what? It helps if you actually plug your blender in. Trying to see if I can. My computer is kind of far away from me, so it's hard trying to. I got to find a way to make it easier to read that chat. There we go. It's trying to make it maximize it. There we go. And I can tell I added a little too much water, but that's going to be okay because in the next batch I won't add that much. You want it to be very thick like peanut butter, and this is kind of thin, but it's okay. It'll be fine. And you want it pureed. You want it very smooth so that you just feel like sand. So when you put your fingers inside of it, it feels like sand. If it feels like rocks, it's not blended enough. So you're just going to keep going, usually about a whole minute on your second or highest setting. Oh, almost there. Okay. And one of the things I'm going to do is let me go see how our peppers are doing. Have they cooled enough to the touch? Oh, yes, they have. Yay! Means we can get to the next step. So, see, I can actually grab the pan and everything. So that's good because then I can actually add a pepper in here. So we're gonna use the. I probably should have gotten 2 red peppers, but this is kind of what we're going to do. I'm going to take these onions off screen. We're going to peel them. We're going to use a little bit of the chunks. So if you notice, let's get the close-up. Here we go. So we're going to start peeling this pepper. And you notice it's steaming, so just be careful. So notice, you see how the skin just pops off? That's why we roasted it. The skin is not good eats for this. No, it's not the skin, not normally. It's just it adds a chaff to these kinds of dishes that we're making right now. You don't want that chaff, so you gotta peel it. And then we're going to remove the seeds from the inside and the core. So first get the skin off. It's much easier to do it that first than trying to get the skin off second. Just kind of get this little piece off there. There we go. So again, that's why I have that trash bag nearby. And so I cut it off to the side so I can do kind of this. And there's liquid in here. That's fine. You're just going to get rid of the seeds. I missed a piece of the back skin here. There's a little, it was folded, so you just get it off. There we go. And so this is going to add a great flavor. We have this in the inside, just going to let that water drain out. And then we're going to get rid of that top stem right there. There we go. And then we're going to wash the seeds off straight into the garbage disposal. You don't want the seeds, and you also don't want this little vein here. Yeah, the vein's okay, you don't want it. Definitely it holds on to seeds, so just get rid of it. Oh, very. That's why I have this little tray here, so that we have pieces of it. All right, I'm going to use this large poblano pepper. We're going to do the same thing. These peppers have different flavors. This one wanted. This one is anxious to get rid of its seed. It just split in half. Okay, before I could get the back of it off. So be it. Now we're going to use our sink to wash those seeds off, because the fastest way of getting it off. There we go. Because I was trying to peel the sides of it off, but peel the skin off, but it wouldn't let me. But the skin of this one just came off in one nice wrap. And here we get this last piece of skin off of the poblano pepper. And we're going to wash some more of those seeds off. There we go. Yeah, there's a little bit of skin here left over. There you go. Just want to get that in there. Alright, just get as many seeds as you can off and just check for skin. Perfect. So, because we have two batches, there will be one poblano pepper per batch, so I guess we'll just do this one. This one's our wimpy one. Well, this one cooked a little too hard. There we go. And there we go. Something was said, which means you gotta travel. Uh, yeah, traveling, I agree, Abracadabra. Um, it's hard now with COVID. It really is. We haven't been on an international trip. Good God, I can't even remember since when. That's how long that's been. That's not a good thing. I'm hoping things ease up enough so that it's good, safe enough to travel. Because it's not. I'm not feeling that way right now. For long distance, long haul international trips that I want to do. I also love to cruise. There we go. And just getting rid of that skin. This one slightly overcooked, so about a fifth of it burnt, which is fine. You just kind of deal with it and get the pieces off. There we go. It's a little piece of meat there. So we're going to add half of the red pepper into this batch since it's already going, and we're going to add all of the poblano, the two that we have, straight in there. And you notice it's now having an amazing color change. And you want it completely pulverized, poblanos and all. I'm going to let it go for a little bit. Now it's done. We just started the last set of poblanos. This one is rather well behaved. Actually, that's actually nice. We're going to split you in two right there. We're going to wash. Wow, we're going to keep the whole thing intact. That is awesome. By the way, when you're doing this, do it with cold water. Warm water reactivates it. You want to use cold water when you're washing the seeds off. There we go. You can split it in half if you want, but all of this is going to go into the next batch. Now we have one last pepper. And just checking chat. Got to figure out a setup in here in my kitchen studio to make it easier for me to see the chat. I think I figured it out. I have a second external portable monitor I'm going to kind of put somewhere and zoom in. Hopefully that'll make it easier to read the chat. These are things that you learn as when you're a new streamer. So there we go. Just getting the last piece of this skin off. That piece is good. That piece is there. There we go. Just kind of take a look, and there's no. Yeah, good. We got everything. That's awesome. So I'm going to put this in here, and I'm going to wipe this tray. We're not going to need it again, at least not that I can think of. Yeah, sometimes you need a tray to stack up pre-stack the moi moi, but I actually don't like doing that, so I'm going to keep it right here. All right, so now and cook by feel, and yep, it feels like like soft sand, and I'm going to pour into our container. So this is where both batches are going to be. Let's get that off screen. All right, now this time I'm going to add the peppers first with the onions. I'm going to use that one. Yeah, got a whole onion in there. Oh, this is a retarded piece of onion. Did not, there's like, it's kind of weirdly deformed. There we go. All right, and we're going to pour the rest of our beans. Black-eyed peas. No, abracadabra. This is my second stream. Well, not really. So I was doing Facebook Lives off and on during the holidays, but this is my first Twitch and first multi-stream. I've never done a multi-stream before. So right now, this is being streamed to both YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, and getting my tech. So I kind of consider this my second stream, even though I've Facebook Lived my kitchen during the holidays for actually a couple of years off and on. I normally do a holiday cooking series. So I'm trying to get into doing this regularly. It's sort of my new passion. Okay, I want to drain some of that water because I just remembered, yep, I was doing this as if it was normal, and nope, because we put too much water in the first one. Because the beauty of this is if you don't have enough water, you can always add, but you can't subtract once it's ground into the thing. So now that that's there, we want this to be thicker so that it matches that one. Oh, it's perfect. Yep. Let's let it go for a minute. Let that go for a second. All right. Let's see if it is soft. Oh, no, it actually needs just a little bit more. Again, you want it to be soft, like really soft sand, or like sand when you feel mud. If it feels coarse, like you have little gravel bits, it's too thin. It needs more grinding. Yep, now we're there. Perfect. Yay! It fit my bowl perfectly. All right. So now that we have our moi moi base, now we're going to add stuff to it. And I say stuff, so I'm gonna wash the container right now because we're gonna be grinding tomatoes and other things in here. Yeah, so it's just a light washing. It doesn't need to be proper because I'm not putting this up. I just need it free of the beans. There we go. I'm just gonna keep that there. We're gonna do a quick check of our meats. Like so, we're cooking 3 things. Oh yeah, that water is seriously reducing. This one is, the flame's a little smaller for the size of the pot, but I have to keep them in this order because in order for everything to fit on my stove, and I'm going to lower the flame of that. All right, so now it's time for you to get your spatula, and we're going to mix the 2 mixtures together. I just realized I did not wash the lid. Let's get that lid. And what's strange is the little thing keeps popping off. There we go. There we go. Yay. There we go. All right. So we are going to get this party started. So I hope you have an amazing time streaming here. Oh, I appreciate it. Thanks so much. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. I have a lot to learn. I do. So here we go. We have our mixture here. And so I'm going to start adding spices. We're going to add first some salt. And I always add seasoned salt. Just a little bit of seasoned salt. Be careful because salt is strong. And we're just going to mix it all in. And you're just going to keep stirring. You do not use a mixer in this case. There we go. We're going to add the most important ingredient to moi moi is the crayfish. And so that's why I was being careful with the salt. There we go. And as you make it, you taste it. So about a quarter cup for this size batch, if not a third of a cup. Actually, it's more of a third of a cup. And I am going to cheat a little bit because I found in this store, the African food store, they had something called moi moi spice, which is awesome. It actually adds a whole bunch of the other flavors that you need. You need nutmeg. You need it's kind of neat. So this is the moi moi spice. I use it. Be careful because this actually has salt in it. So and it has some pepper, but it adds an amazing flavor to the moi moi. So we're adding about a tablespoon. And things I like to add is I do add a protein. The Yorubas tend to, the second largest ethnic group, they tend to use a boiled egg. So you do a hard boiled egg and you seal it in the thing. I was raised in our beef. For those of you who've cooked with corned beef, you know that it can be a little salty. There we go. Enough moi moi spice there. And then we're going to add the corned beef. Where's the corned beef? There it is. Corned beef is dangerous to open. We're also going to add just a little bit more nutmeg. There was nutmeg in the moi moi spice, but it wasn't that much. At home, we actually use a lot of nutmeg in Nigeria. And so I don't know if it grows at home or not. That's actually something I should find out. I don't know. But this is, going back to the main screen, this is corned beef. Let's see, for a very new stream, it's very nice, although we have different chat setups, would be golden. Yeah, I agree. Thanks, Abracadabra. All right, there we go. Opening corned beef, make sure you have the... I don't know why they still make corned beef in this kind of a container. This is the ancient English setup from the 50s. It is so dangerous because this is made of metal, and this metal is really sharp as you're peeling it across. Why not like Spam, a nice pop top? These have been around for 20, 30 years. Why is corned beef still coming in this kind of container? I have no idea. It is ridiculous. And so if you keep these close, you're going to be able to get all the way across, and there you go. Make sure you do not knock that first piece of corned beef out. And so we're going to add the corned beef to this. And so what I do is I normally just take a few chunks, sprinkle it around. A few chunks, sprinkle it around. And just sprinkle it around. Yes, after I get a little bit, and we're going to use the whole thing of corned beef, like the whole container. Oh, before I do that, I almost forgot the last ingredient. That's the oil. The oil helps it stick. So we actually add vegetable oil, corn or canola. Do not use peanut oil. Well, we actually do at home. I don't know. I found that peanut oil, I don't like the taste of it in moi moi. I like it in other kinds of foods, but not in moi moi. Oh, come on, there we go. This is a brand new bottle of canola oil. Very good oil. In there, I tried olive and it did not taste right to me. So we're gonna add about a quarter cup. And I believe the beans, for some interesting reason, have a natural emulsifying agent, because just like when you're making mayonnaise, you add eggs are the emulsifying agent. That's why oil and water are able to create mayonnaise, because you're adding oil and water, and you put in an egg, and that is how you get mayonnaise. And for some reason, the oil and water stays together, and that's called an emulsion. Um, and so the egg is the emulsifying agent, I believe. And for some reason, beans are the two, because I'm adding, as you know, there's been a lot of water we've been put in here, and I just added oil, and it just sucked it all up right now. In fact, I think I need just a little bit more oil. And don't worry about, yes, corned beef does have a lot of fat in it. That fat's not going to contribute. It's an animal fat. You do not want to use lard for this. You do not want to use an animal fat. That just does not work as the oil. For some reason, you could try, and it just kind of doesn't work. I wish I was a food scientist so I could understand. I'm an engineer, but I'm learning a little bit more about gastronomy to get to the level. I want to kind of, I want to be a mini Alton Brown, where I understand what's going on. There we go. And we're just going to add the rest of all of that corned beef in there. Again, be very careful, because the sides are sharp. And again, I have no earthly idea why corned beef comes in this dangerous container. You can easily cut yourself. I've done it so many times. That's why I'm going really fast. So, here we go. I'll wash my hands really quick to get all that corned beef off. All right. We're just going to keep stirring. Stirring, stirring, stirring. We're going to add just a little bit more oil. I can tell you want it to have just that slight glassy look to it. And then it's ready for us to pour into the containers that we're going to steam it in. Awesome sauce. Okay. Well, our goat meat is basically done. It's not done. It's at the point where we can add our other meats. Oh yeah. Perfect. So, since we're at this point, we're going to add our chuck beef, because it takes a long time to cook. This is a smaller batch. It's not going to have as much beef. I'll put one bone in. I'm going to put the rest of that here in the stew. All right. And then this is reduced. I'm going to move this out of the way. I'm hoping you guys can see. So we have to add more water. As we boil the next, because again, like I said, goat meat's really, really tough. And so you got to add enough water till it's there, but don't over salt. There we go. Yay. And for this one, I don't want to bring that heavy pot, so I'm going to take some water from here. I want hot water so it boils faster. There we go. Yay. It's very educational and very relaxing. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. And there we go. Awesome. There we go. All right. So turn that heat up. since we've just added cooler liquid, we want to get everything boiling again. So, some good stuff. All right, let's get back to our moi moi. I just added a little oil in the last bit of corned beef, and there we go. We're just gonna mix that in. Yeah, all the corned beef is in there. You could add another can. I don't like to add too much corned beef because this is a large batch. I would always add 1 can. Some people like it meaty, so they'll add 2 cans of corned beef. You can add sardines. Moi Moi has sardines. I have never tried Spam. I've been curious because Spam is like the American corned beef as far as I'm concerned. Been very curious about what that would be like. All right, so as you've mixed all of this, the next thing you got to do is taste. Taste for salt and flavor. Oh, the consistency is perfect. It just needs to feel like that sand. If it's too thick like peanut butter or grits, you need to add water. You can just add water at this step. But this is perfect. Oh, yeah. That's good stuff. Just the right amount of crayfish. So, now it is time for us to do the steaming. The first thing is I have my giant steam pot right here. I also call this my gumbo pot. This is the pot I use to make gumbo a lot. Our little trivet, because that's what I'm going to use as the steaming. Yeah, the trivet's is waterproof. It's anodized. Oh, I knocked my camera over. All right, just gonna get that ready in there. We're going to go ahead and add, because we're steaming it, so we'll just go ahead and add water now. Better than when you have all the pieces of moi moi in there wrapped up and you pour water on top of it. That's not a good thing. So we're just going to get that water up to the trivet, just below the trivet, and we're good. All right. Let me put this lid somewhere else. So now it is time for our pour. Um, So what we're going to do is traditionally, moi moi in Nigeria is served or prepared using plantain or banana leaves. Bananas and plantains are two different things. I actually think, I'm sorry, it's banana leaves. We don't use plantain leaves. Plantain leaves are problematic. So you actually take banana leaves and we will wrap them into these pyramid-shaped uh, irregular pyramid-shaped cubes. I have never figured out how to fold and tie the stuff together that way. So guess what? We are right now in America, so we are going to use an awesome cheat, and that is normal grocery store. There's these tins, and you need to have a lid. If you don't have a lid, you can make lids just by taking a sheet of a little piece of aluminum foil and covering it. These are nice because they're specifically designed for moi moi. That's why the African store has them. These are made by Olaye. They're the version that I buy. I wouldn't be surprised if you can find things like this online for delivery. So what we're going to do is we are going to take these and we're going to pour till it's about 3/4 full. You don't, because remember, moi moi actually rises and grows, so you don't want to fill it to the top. And then we're going to cover it. So you see these come with, oh, I need to swap the screen. These come with a silver and paper cover. So what I normally do is I toss that and I take one from the bottom and one from the top. And so the other thing you need to do is you need to butter each pan because you want the moi moi to not stick to the side. It's not a bad thing, it's just because you're going to eat them in this. But if you ever want to present them, you want to butter, you're going to want to butter the container. And then what I do is you just simply take some of the mixture until it is 3/4 full. Give it a shake, shake, shake. And see if I can, it's easier to see that way. Shake, shake, shake. And then we just take the cover and put it in. And we cover it. And that's it. This makes it so much easier than what we do back home in Nigeria. I wish I had learned how you fold banana leaves. I never learned. And then you're just going to put them into your steamer tray, whatever you have, and we're just going to keep layering them in there. I'm going to get a couple of these ready. There's another one in there. There you go. Spray with oil. Pour in till 3/4 full. Some people do 2/3. I live on the edge. I do 3/4. There we go. We're going to keep these over here. And then seal. And by the way, you do not need to butter the lid. Um, thank you. Thank you, Abracadabra. I appreciate it. So we're going to do that. Then we're going to do this. Yay. And then just kind of lather and rinse and repeat until you fill the pot. This is actually going to be more than I think this moi moi is going to be more, but that's okay because what you just do, more than the amount of room I have in my pot. I would actually normally use that big pot to make moi moi, but I actually found that I like this one better. It steams more evenly, but sometimes I can't get as many in there as I want. There we go, putting that on, folding, doing that foldage right there. Have them. I can only fit 3 per row in this particular pot. If you have something that's wide rimmed, our different Hispanic people, when they make tamales, they have a giant pot for steaming tamales. That is perfect for this. If you have one of those, that is the kind of pot you would use for this. Tamales, by the way, that's the Mexican form of moi moi, because the consistency of moi moi, I totally forgot, is just like a tamale, and they have meat in there, but the flavors are just different. So see, another food similar that is in a different part of the world, and I don't quite get how we as humans, sort of without communication across the oceans, kind of came to these similar conclusions. There's so many similarities like this around. Um, Totally forgot that tamales, and I wonder if there's another form of something like a tamale in the Asian cultures. I wouldn't call a crepe this thing, but it's folded. I wonder if the French or other people have something like this, where you steam and you come out. Dumplings in Asia are not quite the same thing as what we're making. Steamed dumplings, there's an element of similarity, but not quite the similar dish. Um, Tamales is literally the exact analog to moi moi. Um, Whereas in Nigeria, we do have lots of corn. We do grow some corn, but beans are in the Hispanic regions use corn. And I find it just really, really, really fascinating what happens between the different cultures. So, yep, just layering our moi moi. I have 6 of them in here now, alternating the order. Said it's just a continuous assembly job. Layer, put your till 3/4 full, cover, and pinch. There you go. There you go. And the next, so Abracadabra, I don't know, Abracadabra, I think I'm reading your name wrong. Did you have a good Christmas? And Happy New Year. I hope you had fun. I did. I strangely enjoyed making cheesecake last night. Then, stayed up till midnight and watched the ball drop, I'm in the central time zone, so it's always an hour before us. But then waited, and our neighborhood was like it was insane. It was like being in Times Square. There were so many fireworks being shot in my neighborhood. I was absolutely surprised. Um, it was neat to be here. I feel like I had my own front door, just sat in the patio with a glass of sangria, homemade sangria. Um, and that's a recipe I got to share. I learned how to make Spanish food from a Spanish grandma over Airbnb during the pandemic, and that was a lot of fun. Making paella, traditional paella, and how to make real sangria, the good stuff. Yeah, I'll go over that one of these days in one of my streams. All right, we are getting there. We are almost uh, getting to the top of this. And now we have our last out of this first container. How many is in these? I have no idea how many. Oh, okay, I've done 3, so there are 9. So this is the 10th one that will be going in. And now I'm going to open a new container. Like I said, these tins make this process so much faster and easier. But to watch the women at home, um, it's amazing. Back in Nigeria, watch them as well, if they have an assembly line, um, go making the wrappers, um, filling it. It's like it's something amazing to truly behold. Yeah, I consider this a little bit of an American cheat, but it works just as effective. Go. Again, 3/4 full. And we put that nice little lid. Yep. And we are almost done. Again, this is great because our meats are boiling. So this actually there's an order to how I cook because the thing that takes the longest goes in first. The things that take the shortest amount of time, technically moi moi, it takes about 30 minutes, but it could be done while the other stuff is cooking. So that's why I'm doing this order. Okay. Got a little spill there. There we go. We're going to cover the ends. Okay. So now I got to see how many more I think I can only put 3 more. Yeah, so I'm going to test it. Can it take even a row above that? It's sort of putting it on top. Not quite. So it may take one more on top of that, but not any, like a single middle, one in the middle. So we're just gonna keep going. I can do a row of 3 and maybe one not another row, but literally just only one more moi moi. Um, You had a wonderful time, Abracadabra. It's definitely the most wonderful part of the year, no doubt. And you had way too much food. Tell me about it. Yeah, I cooked a feast for for Thanksgiving, which begins the holidays, as well as Christmas. I decided to do a ham and a turkey. We had about 12, 15 people over, and so I was cooking for 13 hours. That was the other lives. So those are the lives I normally do, but I was only doing it on Facebook. And so my friend Lauren taught me about Twitch this week, and I was like, you know what? We're gonna figure this out and do it. And I got Streamlabs and a couple of tools to upscale the thing, and it's been actually a fun learning. I've enjoyed this process. Yep, there we go. All right, there we go. And okay, actually, I was actually thinking I would have to save a lot of this, and the answer is not as much as I thought. So what's left over, I'm actually going to do another batch, but you can just put the moi moi in the fridge. Um, put it in a container, put it in the fridge. It lasts a couple of days, if not a week, in the fridge like that. All right, so now we are at our top row, and so I'm trying to see, can I add more in this container? And I believe I can add maybe 2 more. Let's see what this looks like. Okay. Yes, I can add 2 more, but not, I don't think I can add 3. Can I add 3? Let's see what happens when I try to add a third. Yeah, the lid doesn't close. So we will add 2 more. And you could actually start the thing boiling. It's just that makes it hot when you reach over to arrange your moi moi. And so I like to wait and get all of them in there before I start putting it in, because steam burns are not fun. Steam burns really are not fun. So I tend to just get them all in there and then turn the fire on. But you can actually turn it on if you know how not to get burned. Go. And our last one. Now, it's almost all of it went through. I might get another container and just boil these, steam these in something small. Um, but not that'll be after I make everything else. That was a bit of a spill there. Yeah, this kitchen, things happen. There we go. All right. Fold, rapidy wrap, foldity fold. There we go. All right, so I'm gonna kind of angle those. So what happens if I do that? Oh, I see a path to putting 1 more in here. Oh, there is a path. There is a path. There is a path. Is it gonna work? Is it gonna work? Yes, it is gonna work. So we can get 1 more in there. Haha. And this is one of the reasons why I like this container, because this container, this bowl, has a little lip that makes it easy, so when you get towards the end, you can pour. There you go. This will officially be our last piece, so we can start steaming. Depends, there's a size of these containers that's larger. It's twice 2 of these, and it really is hard to get it to fit, but we're gonna try something here and do a little jiggery pokery, as my British friends say, and we're gonna see if that works. Haha! Lid close! Woohoo! Lid close! Success! Alright, we're gonna move this over to the other burner, and we're gonna turn that puppy up to high. So you're going to boil it on high to get the water to boil, and then you're going to reduce it down to a medium, if not a medium low, so the steaming process can happen. But this is awesome. We got to a good point. And now we're going to be checking our meats here. They are doing great. Cooking quite nicely. All right, I'm going to move things around for the next set of stuff, because we need to caramelize some tomatoes. You're like, caramel what? Yep, that's our next job. So get these moi moi tins out of the way. So we are going to move this soup back to here. And we're going to turn its fire up. Turn that off. And then we are going to get our stewing pan. Yep. And so what pray tell, you may be asking, am I going to do with that? Well, what we're going to do is, stew is made from tomatoes, and so we're actually going to take canned tomatoes. I'm going to season them just a little bit, and we're going to caramelize them. So we're going to reduce the water, and then we're going to fry them until they're basically a paste. And that's what we add to the water with chicken and things like that. And that makes the stew. It will thicken up. Stew is very thick. It's not like gumbo. What's the consistency? It's like a thick chicken noodle soup, or actually like clam chowder. That's the thickness of it, and that's what happens when you caramelize tomatoes. So that's what we're about to do. So I'm gonna take this moi moi and put it over here for a little bit. I will make the rest of it in a smaller. I'll make it's probably about 1.5 or 2. I will make it in another container I have here, but I just don't have the stove space for it. All right, so we are going to begin by opening a can of tomatoes on this thing. All right, so we need to throw out our trash bag because there's not way it's going to fit all of this in there. Because we're going to be throwing away a lot of cans. The other thing I need to get is my brown sugar and have that ready to go. So my stew is a little bit sweet. So I have several cans here of tomato products. I use petite diced tomatoes. I used to get the sweet onion. To me, that made the best stew. Sweet onion, petite diced tomatoes, but they don't have them anymore in my stores. Thank you, supply chain. So we're going to open a can. A tablespoon. So I've learned how to make my own version of sweet onion. So there's a petite diced sweet onion version that they make in our store here called the HEB, Herbert E. Butts, and it was the best thing. That made the best stews. And then during the pandemic, it disappeared. And that was heartening. So I decided I'm going to figure out how to make my own, and I figured it out. It is brown sugar, and I actually don't need the onions, but since I have leftover onions, I will grind them in. So we just get our trash bag here and start tossing. So the way it works is, as I take a can, I'm going to take about a tablespoon, a heaping tablespoon and a half of brown sugar straight into the blender. We're going to puree that and toss it onto the stove. Since I have these onions that I chopped left over from our moi moi, I might as well just go ahead and add them because I'm going to chop up onions when we do the frying. So I might as well add them now. And I actually normally add a big can and a small can. And I'm going to do this twice because we're making a large stew. A lot of food. I got a lot of people to feed. Good thing about Twitch is that it's very personalizable and it's been same viewer engagement. Oh, okay, yeah. This has been a journey for me in the last couple of days, so I'm enjoying this. I don't know if anybody's watching me on Facebook. But yeah, we're gonna puree this. It doesn't have to come out fine. You just want it, and then a taste. Good. You don't want it tasting too sweet. And we just pour it right here. And we're gonna lather, rinse, repeat. We're gonna get another large can and another small can. And let's see. Oh, there we go. I was actually trying to have my close-up, and there it is. That's the better angle. And then we're going to get all that in there. I will toss the rest of my onions in here. I like to add in them, before I add the other can, I like to add my brown sugar. Again, I've already turned on the flame to max because these are going to go for a while. Let me get this, I'll move that back to where it needs to be. And we're going to add that last can. Ooh, come on. Automatic can opener. I was like, where have you been all my life? It wasn't like until I was a teenager. That's kind of a strange thing. All right, puree. There we go. This isn't like moi moi. We just want it broken down. Oh, perfect. You don't want it too sweet. You just want it tangy. There we go. And it's kind of interesting because I'm actually going to add another small can. But I'm not going to puree it. I'm just, because sometimes it's nice to have the chunks. So what I'm going to do with this is an interesting trick. I'm actually going to add this directly into our, because we're losing a lot of water. So that tomato will break down. It's not much, but wash it down. And we're actually now done with our blender. Because now, from now on, it's basically stove and chopping that's remaining. So we just gotta chop, chop, chop some things. That's all that remains. So this is boiling, but what I'm gonna do is I was looking and it's like not high enough. I could add another can, but I don't want to add a big can. I'm gonna add a small can, unchopped, because a little bit of chunkiness is a nice thing in stew. So we will add 1 can of the petite unchopped, just straight up into that, because it ends up mushing down anyway as it caramelizes, but you'll get a little bit of nice textured chunks in there. There we go. And done. Ooh. All right, so we have some prep trays there. And clean my knife because we have to chop another onion. There we go. And so because this splatters, you can do that. Oh, Brian, you can come in. It's okay. My husband's just trying not to get in frame because he thinks he doesn't look pretty. You are pretty. He's like, he doesn't have what he wants to be wearing. I'm like, oh, nobody cares. There we go. All right, so this is going to start boiling, and we're going to cook it until it reduces way down. So while I'm getting that going, I'm going to do a little bit of cleaning up, just so we don't have too many things in the way. We can move around as is needed. Just asking anybody, Nightsa, you gone fancy. You got the phone too. Yes, thanks. Yes, I do. I got a little bit of magic going on here, whereby I'm able to switch my camera views using my cell phone. The one problem I have, I'm using the cell phone over a network, and I'm noticing there is a delay. And so I'm gonna, engineer in me is gonna figure out a way of fixing that. I think there's some settings to optimize the crazy frame rates and stuff like that that's gonna make that choppiness off. But hey, it's my second stream, so I get to play the newbie learning card. So we are just watching everything that's going on in here. So as I was saying, I was going to do a little bit of cleaning here and get some of the dishes out of the way so that we don't trip over things. There we go. I may end up swapping these because I think the soup, the egusi soup is going to be more ready to go. It's going to be the next thing that's ready to go for the next set of spices. So we will check in a quick second because it all depends on how well the meat's done. You want your chuck beef to be half done. There we go. Just trying to get the last of my dishes here clean. And yes, the way I cook is I do cook by taste. So how are we going to know that it's half done? We're going to take a piece out and test it. Test it. All right. All right. Well, our tomatoes have started to boil. Um, let's take a look at our meat for the egusi soup. I can tell that it is right where it needs to be. Oh yeah, you can slice that piece of chuck and it is good to go. So what we're gonna do something interesting. We're gonna move some stuff around. All right. So once we're at this point, the next thing we're going to progress to doing the egusi soup. We're actually going to add all the um, oporoko into the mixture. And so for that, I need to get a whisk, sorry, a colander, and we're going to just get all the water out. We don't need the water that comes in this. In that flavor is not the best. We're going to add all of that in. This is what it looks like. Um, and when it's basically done, it starts peeling off and it's soft. So we're going to add all that. I've gotten all the water out, so pour that all in. So this, for now, knock down my camera. Whoops. Gotta be careful. Gotta know that that is sensitive. Here we go. All right. Sorry about that. Little kitchen place clumsiness there. It's gonna be awesome once you figure out the kinks. Yep. Am I planning on streaming regular Abracadabra? Yes, I am. I'd like to see if I can get up to once a week. It's going to take a little bit more planning. We're not there yet. But I actually want to do 2 to 3 times a week. Because I got to feed hungry people, so I might as well stream when I'm doing it. So that's my intention. Getting there is going to be a journey. I need to figure out some things with my setup and stuff like that. But, you know, one step at a time. It's probably going to happen on Fridays or Saturdays, because that's when I usually cook the most to start off with, and then I might have sort of one-off to either teach a technique or something like that. One of the things I'd like to do is I'd like to do kind of a Julia thing. If you've ever seen that movie, I want to get a cookbook, which in fact the Julia Child cookbook is one of them, and just start making things. So just trying to get all this stuff off the sides. There we go. As we're washing, because I've added more stuff, temperature changes happen. There we go. Yep. The thing that we're going to add to the, and we're not going to do this to the stew, but we are going to do this to the egusi soup, is we're going to add our chicken right now because it needs to be mostly done or close to done when we start adding our other ingredients. They will boil in the egusi soup. So one of the things I have here is I gotta get my bird ready, which is off screen. Go the other utility. And so I actually have these leg quarters. I want to add a couple of them in there, and then I have some thighs that I want also in there. So I normally you just cut at the bone. And for the thighs, I normally take the skin off. But for the drumsticks, I don't. Yeah, it's just a preference. There's nothing about it. It's just my weird eccentricity. There we go. Again, to cut the chicken, you cut it right there at the joint, and that's how you cut it. Don't ever try to cut it at the bone. You will damage your knife, and your hand's gonna hurt. Because there's a lot of fat here, I always cut that piece off the thigh. There we go. There we go. There we go. We'll add one. Actually, we'll add these two because this is a tiny one. And just checking chat. Got to figure a better chat setup so I can see the stuff better. I think I'm going to have it on my iPad in the window so that I can see things a little bit better. There we go. There's a little piece of extra fat there. All right. And then I also have this last piece is going to go into the stew. This is why I have this little thing-mabob right there. And we throw our horrible chicken fat stuff out of the way. This is barely going to fit into my trash bag. There we go. And now it is time to throw this trash bag away. It's full. Wash your hands to prevent cross-contamination. Awesome sauce. So the moi moi has started to boil because you can see steam. So I'm going to lower that burner down to a medium low. That's how you know you'll start seeing steam coming out of the pot. That's how you know the water's been boiling. So once that happens, you just lower the moi moi steam, and it's going to steam for about 30 to 40 minutes. You'll know when it's done. All right, so then I have some other chicken parts that I want to add. I want to add I want to add the thighs. I have a whole bunch of frozen thighs because I'll buy a lot of them and just freeze them. And so I like having thighs in egusi soup. There we go. Time for another trash bag. All right, and you're going to set this one back to boil because we've added a whole lot of ingredients. It's hard for you to see what this looks like. Let me bring this over. This is what this now looks like. In there, and you'll add water as is appropriate. Because chicken actually releases water, I'm not going to add water yet because you don't want too much water. So I think I'm going to add 2 more boneless, skinless thighs. Yep. There we go. All right. And so I've turned the fire up to the highest high so it can start boiling. Our tomatoes are caramelizing as necessary. This stew meat, I'm just going to turn it down to low because I believe it's at place. Yep, I can tell the meat is very, it's sneak a bite just to see. Oh yeah, a little more done than I want it to be, so we're going to turn the heat down to low so it can just simmer so when we get to that place. But the egusi soup is where we need to have it at right now. Oh, and so we are waiting for the uh-oh, remote control. We are waiting for the, and then we're going to start adding spices. So I'm going to wash all this chicken fat and stuff off of my knife. And there's still one more thing that we have to cut, which is the onions for the stew. There we go. Get all that horrible chicken fat off. Again, this is Nigerian cooking. We're making moi moi, we're making stew, we are making egusi soup, and making lots so we can put them in the freezer and fridge and warm them up during the week. It's starting to get cold here in Texas. We're about to have a huge cold front come by. It was 85 degrees today in Houston, Texas, and it's going to be 34 in the morning. So, we have these gigantic temperature swings. Stream Deck. There we go. My Stream Deck. So, oh, you got to go, Abracadabra. Well, thank you so much. Hopefully, the rest of the stream, I told Twitch to record this and Facebook and Instagram, so we will see if they're there. I'm actually recording inside of my broadcast tool, so if you want to come by and see the rest of how it turned out, just come back and watch the recording. So have a great evening. So yeah. Oh yeah, this is boiling now. Woohoo. You want to move that meat in the chicken around so that the chicken's at the bottom if you can. It just boils faster and cooks faster. There we go. And I need to find out what just came to me. And it's going to be awesome. I hope. Sorry, just helping with a cat emergency. I have cats, so there's a little bit of nonsense going on as you have in the house. Um, so anywho, we're just waiting for stuff to boil and kind of keep going. The tomatoes are boiling quite, they're basically going to reduce till there's no water left. And then we fry them. This is boiling now, which is good. So we can start adding our first African set of seasoning, and that is crayfish. What did I do with my crayfish? Where's the dawa? Oh, there it is. So we're going to add a little bit of crayfish. the water in there. We're going to add the African pepper. Just a little pinch of that. I'm just going to add a little pinch of that to the stew. There we go. This is where you get your spoon ready because a lot of taste. Make sure it's not making too much salt. That's pretty good. Just a little hair more crayfish. This is a thing you do to taste of how you like it, and I just know what I like. And so I add this now. Don't wait too long. I add this now so that that flavor cooks into the chicken, because chicken doesn't take too long to cook. The same thing with when I make stew. I actually cook the chicken in with, I put it right when, shortly before I throw in the meat. I mean, throw in the tomatoes. So we're gonna put that, make that covered, and then we're going to, well, first we're gonna have a little drink. No, this is just Gatorade. I have other adult beverages, but right now we just need some Gatorade, some hydration. We will give a check to the moi moi. Oh, it's doing great. It is just steaming its little heart out. And the stew is cooking. And then we will get ready for our next two spices that have to be added. Actually, let me take my brown sugar and put it where it's supposed to be, behind here. And then, woohoo! And then, oh, I didn't realize. I must have spilled a little water when I was carrying stuff. I just noticed there's some water here in the middle of the floor. It must have happened when I was rushing across with something. So you do not want to be, I do not want to be the guy who slipped and fell, and that clip goes all over the internet. So there we go. Getting that off. Good. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take the stew, because we don't, the meat's, it's basically just sitting warm. I'm going to take it off only because I need to move the egusi soup closer, because that big pan is not cooperating with that small burner. Plus it's going to take a while. So I'm just going to move it to the other burner. So this is the tomatoes. We're just going to do this. So it actually is on a bigger burner, and this can move into the center of the eye and cook more evenly. It's just temporary until the egusi soup is more done. Then we'll move the egusi soup to the back when it's simmering. There we go. This is going great. So the next thing we add is something that is very unique to Nigeria or African cooking, and that is palm oil. This is not good oil for you, but it's highly polysaturated, but it is something we cook with, and I think the reason why it doesn't hurt us so much is we're so active. So we're actually going to add palm oil directly into this. It gives egusi soup its color and flavor. Yeah, and palm oil comes from the palm trees. You know, the stuff you see on beaches. They make a fruit called the palm kernel, and it's a certain type of certain palms are the kinds that we use. The palms we grow are the 25-foot palms. They're huge. Um, and that's the thing. They have this giant fruit set of nuts. So there's the palm around the palm kernel is where the oil sits, and we peel that layer. It's like an avocado, and then you take that sort of thing and you run it through water, and that gets the oil out, and then the water separates from that. The chaff you throw away, and then the kernels you actually can do other things with. The kernels have the nut, that is what the fruit of the palm, and inside of the nut's like an almond. It has an oil of its own. It's very called palm kernel oil. It's very sweet. It smells like coconut oil, but it's not coconut. It's just its own very sweet aromatic oil that comes from the palm kernels. So you get two oils from the same plant. So um, we have now added our palm oil in, and it starts mixing in rather well. I need to be in the other view so you guys can see better. I need to figure out a way of getting a better close-up, but I can show you guys what this looks like here. So if you take a look here, so it's a little red as the meat's going. Oh yeah. And then the water is increased, by the way. Like I told you, chicken releases water, so you don't want to. You can always add water. You can take it away by boiling, but then you overcook stuff. So I'd rather add water later if it's needed, rather than add too much. So at this point, as it's going, we're going to add our next spice, which is called, as I went over at the beginning, it is called dawa dawa. D-A-W-A, D-A-W-A, dawa dawa. And it's very strong. A little goes a long way. Um, and I don't know what plant dawa dawa comes. It's a plant, um, some part of a plant that we grind. I'm adding about a tablespoon. That's about it, and we'll see if we need more. And then quite shortly, when the chicken is half done, which is almost half done, we will add the star of the show, which is egusi itself. Oh yeah, that's some good stuff. And it reduced in its salt salinity, which is good because now that allows me to add one cool thing, which is one chicken bouillon. So you don't want to add too much salt because chicken bouillon has flavor that is delicious to this recipe. So we use Maggi cubes, which is a meat-based flavor as opposed to a chicken-based. And I've actually found that chicken works better to me than Maggi if you have chicken inside of your meat. Sometimes we make soups and there's no chicken. It's all goat meat or something like that. And so definitely Maggi cubes at that point. So you know that the chicken is half done when it starts peeling off of the bone. It's not there, but it's starting to peel off the bone, so that's great. We are now going to add our egusi. And remember I told you egusi, it comes from a melon seed, like literally like a watermelon, cantaloupe. It's not the same, it's a specific species, um, and it's there. Uh, I have yet to have this soup. Oh yeah, you haven't had this soup. I don't know if you are, I don't know if you can handle it, Lauren. Let's see. So we're going to add this anyway. It's a melon seed that we grind into this powder. So you take the melon seed, you dry it, and you grind it. And so I'm adding it, and it starts thickening a little bit. So we're going to add half of this container of egusi, and we may add more later. And so now it's going to get this nice yellow look. Oh, no, we need a little bit more. There we go. And I am going to see if I can move this closer to the camera so you guys can kind of take a look at what it looks like. So I have a little mound of it in the middle that I haven't stirred. I just wanted you guys to see what this is looking like. Oh, I'm in the wrong camera view. There we go. This is what this looks like inside of in there. So I'm going to put it back on the flame. And so as you can see, it was thickening up. And I can tell it's bright yellow, and I want it to be more of an orange. And I can just tell that means I don't have enough palm oil in here. But that's the beauty of it. You can always add. You can't subtract. At least I don't know. I figured out a way of subtracting salinity, and you use dried onions, but that can alter your flavor a little bit. But I don't know how to subtract palm oil. If you add too much palm oil, I think you're kind of screwed. There we go. So the egusi is going to cook for like 15 minutes, and that's what it takes for it as a thing to cook, to be done. Add a little bit more palm oil. And we're done with the palm oil. And how awesome. This is just cooking down nicely, boiling. And all these flavors are going into that chicken, including that bouillon cube that should have dissolved by now. And so some people eat egusi just like this, in this form. I am not a big fan. I was raised a certain way. You got to have some vegetables. And as I'm looking, it's like I'm going to add the last bit of extra egusi I have here. It was a little nubbin in the container, and it could use a little bit more. You can come into the room, Brian. It's okay. Just wave to the people, Brian, and say hi. He's trying to get, it's time for the cats to be fed. So our cats are spoiled. So they get like 2 feedings of wet food on top of the dry food that's gravitationally given to them. Oh, they're so spoiled, but we love them. So they have begun their cries and demands. And so my husband's telling me that the temperature is dropping. So that's going to be interesting. So we're going to, we've just added that last bit of egusi in, and it's just cooking down. This is cooking itself down. Now it's gotten really thick, but I'm not adding, we could add more water, but this is a mistake because one of the things I do is I will add spinach. Chopped frozen spinach. So you let it defrost, but that has a lot of water. And so it will release water into this. So this is doing great. And so at this point, we're going to add our spinach. I always add 2 containers. I like a lot of spinach. Let's see. Did not throw away the egusi container. Actually, I think I'm going to use this for something else. There we go. And my knife. There we are. So the tomatoes, by the way, if you guys were wondering, are just cooking themselves down, which is awesome. We want them down to nothingness. As a matter of cream burner, and so it will nuke something. And so we need to move this egusi soup off of this burner, which will happen right after I put the spinach in, because now it's at its level where it just needs to simmer. So we're going to add all those 2 containers of spinach. A lot of people will wring the spinach out. I don't want to do that because I actually want it's liquid. It's good stuff. So that's why I make sure things are a little thicker, because like I said, I can always add water. It's just harder to subtract. Water is not something, you subtract water, of course, by boiling it off, but then you may have overcooked your food. And that's just not great eats. So it's easier just to add. Like I said, there's a lot of water in spinach, as well as there's water on top of that. So we're just gonna pop these huge chunks of spinach down into the soup so that they can boil and cook. There we go. All right, it is time to taste this thing. Oh no, it's not done yet. It's almost done. You can see still cooking, but I can taste for season. It needs another bouillon cube. You add certain things and they divest flavor out of it. It's just lacking a little salt, and so I'm going to add that through, and flavor. Well, it has flavor. It's just I want to add that, and actually, it needs a little bit more of the Nigerian pepper. I like it just a little bit hotter. I could have added poblanos to this, but I wanted to use them for the moi moi. I actually do have one extra poblano, and I didn't think about that. I could have done that and used that heat, because that does work in this soup as well. There we go. You don't want to overcook the chicken, so what we're going to do is, now that this is at this state, we're going to move this to the back burner and move this to the nuking burner, and we're going to bring the other meat back. It's called musical pots and pans, people. What you gotta do. Good. Oh yeah, it's doing great. So that's just going to simmer until the egusi is done. And you know that the egusi is done when it starts clumping up inside of the soup. And then the soup is done, because now the meat should be, all of the meat is perfectly cooked within it. I've added that bouillon cube. That's oh yeah, I'm already tasting it. In fact, I'm probably going to add one more. Oh, sorry, it's right here. Totally. Yeah, this is a big pot, so. All right. So we have our tomatoes cooking. I'm going to get another um, spoon so I can stir, because you do need to stir it. Not too much, and be very careful, because tomatoes tend to splatter as they're cooking down, but it will. This is going rather nicely. All right. Well, that is going. Nope. That, yeah. We'll just leave that there. I need something else. I'll leave it here for a quick second. I need to wash that. We're going to need to chop an onion, but I want to wait so that it's not too much in the air. So let me wash this really quick. Oh yeah, we got some good stuff going. That moi moi is, it's about time for it to be done, but because it's on a small burner, I need to make sure. And how do you know the moi moi is done? You actually have to take a peek at it. In the plant, if you use the banana leaves method, you can actually feel it being firm. It will be squishy, of course, when you first put it in. It would be sort of the squishiness because, of course, it's liquid. This will solidify into the consistency of tamales or a flan. So we're gonna, yeah, it's still cooking. It still needs to go for a little bit. Probably about 20 more minutes, 15 or 20 more minutes. We're just going to stir this egusi soup, which is gloriously, all that spinach is now cooking. It's all completely melted. And so while I'm here, I'm going to get the other chicken ready. So then, well, actually, I think I'm going to cut the onions and then put the chicken so I don't contaminate. So let's get that onion. It's actually going to be almost 2 onions, a large and a small, for this size stew. Yep. So we're just going to get that ready. Oh, I got to put this in. Where's the bowl that I was using before? Did I put that up? I did. I accidentally put that up. Okay, so I'm happy you enjoyed the cheesecake. Stevie wants to get wet food and dry. Yeah, we've both spoiled our cats. Yes, we have. Oh, it's interesting. I've opened this window because it's getting cool. It's already, let's see, what's our temperature right now? It is not 70 degrees. Yeah, it is 65 now. So it was 80 a few hours ago, and now it's 65, and the temperature is just quickly dropping and dropping and dropping. And so a cool breeze is we actually opened the windows because a cool breeze, I could turn on the air conditioner because it's about to get really cold. I'm like, it's nice enough outside that you can actually um, just watch, let the cool air come inside. I love that. It gets way too hot here in Texas. I mean, I cannot believe it's in the mid to upper 80s during Christmas. It was 86 on Christmas Day. It's ridiculous. Um, but yeah, it's about to go to. I know for those of you who are maybe watching in the north, this is nothing. But you know, we're not supposed to get freezes down here. I had a freeze earlier in the year, and it caused my pipes to bust, and I had 7 inches of water in my house. So we're just getting repairs done and moving back in. And that's just because we don't winterize stuff here because it's not supposed to get that cold. But that time we got down to about 19, 20 degrees here. That was in February. Tonight it's supposed to go down to 38 degrees, just above freezing, and the next night will go below freezing. So these onions are going to be fried with tomatoes once the tomatoes finish caramelizing. Well, it's finished drying out, and then we caramelize it by frying. And so we fry it in onions and oil. So you just want a rough dice. You don't want, this is not something, it's good because the onions are going to completely break down in the thing, so you don't really care what they look like. So a rough chop is all you need to do. That's all you need to do. Alright, that's our first onion. Let's put that in the bowl. Yes. All right. And cut our second onion. This is the last. Well, after this is the chicken, but so. All right. I'm just gonna check the egusi soup, see how it's going. Oh yeah, it's basically, I think it's done. Yeah, the chicken's done, I can tell. It's just taste, that's pretty much done. It's just about seasoning and making sure that seasoning is right. And it has just the right amount of liquid. So we're going to give it a taste and see where it's at. Oh my God. Wow. Mm, mm. Oh yes. If you're from the 70s and used to, ooh, Lord. Oh yes. Oh, we're gonna do another one. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. My mom's gonna love this. Mm. Oh Lord. Mm. If you used to watch Good Times from the 70s, I'm gonna say it. Damn, damn, damn. That is good. Mm. And that is done. We're gonna turn off its flame. It's the rear. I'm gonna move it to the center so I can put this more on the flame. I'm going to get rid of this spoon because I don't need to have it here. We're going to finish cutting our onion. So we can cover the thing because it's starting to get into my eyes. You can use any type of onion. Yep. I just saw that, yes, you get to wear your sweater. Um, maybe in the morning. It's going to be, well, I mean, I think starting around midnight, the temperature starts really dropping fast. High tomorrow here in Houston is going to be 40, according to the news. And actually, that was according to yesterday's news. I actually recorded tonight's news on my TiVo, so I'm going to go watch it after I finish cooking. Because here in Texas, I don't like watching the news. There's too much depression in it, but we have to watch the weather here in Texas. We do not play with the weather. It will do things to you and leave you stranded in something that you don't want to deal with. So we have to watch the weather here in Texas. But other than that, that's about the only piece of news that I ever pay attention to. There we go. And then we're going to, this is coming along just in time. We are going to open our container, let that steam from the caramelized, well, we're caramelizing the tomatoes, but first we got to get all the water out. So we're going to leave it open so that the steam can leave it faster. You just has to get down to the place where enough water has to leave this so that it's down to the place that it's not popping. I mean, it's bubbling, but the way it is when you're making tomato, if you've done this with pasta soups, tomato, like Italian tomato marinara or something like that, the sauce can actually bubble and burst and kind of get on your skin. So that's the nature of tomatoes. And so you want this reduced enough so that that's where you take the lid off, so that when you leave it like this, it's boiling, but it's not bubbling with these giant things that splatter everywhere. So we are basically done with, let's get that there. Our second onion. Did I chop that? I did not chop that. I don't know how that happened. It's probably what happens when you're talking and doing things at the same time. There we go. Let's just chop that. There we go. Done. And we're just going to put this lid on top to keep that onioniness out. Now we're going to open this other container of chicken. Oh, and we're going to use the whole thing in the stew. Just like before, I like to take off the skin of the, it's just a personal preference. There's a lot more, what do you call it, fat on this side of it, of the thigh. So I like to do that every once in a while if it's like this piece has a huge amount of fat on it. So it's just my way of reducing the amount of fat. And yes, I know the irony because I just added palm oil to a dish, but that one actually, we do palm oil not because we want the oil, it's the flavor. Palm oil has a smoky flavor to it, very different than a lot of oils. Very similar to how peanut oil has its own distinct flavor. There we go. Yeah, I guess this set has really, really big drumsticks, so there's a lot of fat on them. So I just want to get all of that cut. And it's now a little over for that container, so we're just going to pop it on top of this container. And our last piece. And that's going to work. Oh wow, that water is reducing fast. Power. Alrighty then. This should be the last we use of the cutting board this evening. All those chicken guts into our bag. And throw this one out now. There we go. And wash my hands. And while we're waiting, I'm just going to wash. Oh, that is dried on. So we're going to need to soak this a little bit. All right, and wash our knife. I hear my husband fussing at the cats because one of them is playing coy and doesn't want to eat their wet food. Not because they don't really want to eat their wet food, they're just playing coy because they want probably some more nuzzles or something like that on top of that. For those of you who have cats, you understand this expression. Dogs have people, but cats have staff. And we are apparently our cat's staff. All right. We're just trying to get the last of the dishes here cleaned up while we're waiting. That tomato is almost down to where it needs to be. You don't want to go too far because you don't want it to burn. It's almost there. Not quite, but almost there. All right. Oh yeah, that tomatoes are almost where they need to be, at least for this step. Yes, I'm going to take the last swig of my Gatorade. Yeah, this is getting there. All right. So while that's at its last steps, we're going to check the moi moi. Oh yeah, I can tell it's done. Not advisable to do that. All right, close up cam. So you guys can see. This is what moi moi looks like. Let's see. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it's done. So so you can kind of take a look. This is what moi moi looks like. Um, and so you're just gonna let it cool down. But you can tell I'm gonna press here, it doesn't move, and so it's solid. That's how you know it's done. So then you just you turn it off. And so I'm gonna leave this here because I'm gonna eat that one when it cools down for a second. Let it cool down because it's really hot to the touch, but it's steam. Some good stuff. And this is my husband. He is trying to get the cat stuff. He's trying to deal and herd our 7 cats. Yeah, we have 7. Not in the house. 3 in the house, 2 in the garage, and 2 outside. And so feeding time is a little bit of a menagerie here in the house. But yeah, this moi moi is done. And so what will happen is once it cools down, you'll actually be able to flip it upside down and it will fall into your plate. Provided you oiled your container correctly. And so we've kept it off screen so that we can let it cool. And so we're trying to get this till there's almost no water. Because that's the key, is that we want to make sure that there is no water here, almost no water, before we add our onions and oil. So it's getting close. And that's why I like this particular flame, because it is my huge BTU burner. Oh, that's right. I'm going to get the other chicken that I'm going to throw in here. Ready? Yeah, these 2. Yep, they are ready. And so, yeah. It's awesome. This is awesome. Everything's cooking good. Everything's cooking well, well, well. Yeah, this is just some fun stuff from my culture. We will eat this with fufu, but I'm not going to make that today because I'm not eating that today. I'm actually just going to lick the soup and eat moi moi and go to bed. Um, Actually, I haven't had a piece of cheesecake yet, so I might actually indulge my sweet tooth. I haven't decided what I'm going to do because I'm a sci-fi nut, so the new Doctor Who episode came today, this afternoon, so I TiVoed that. And this evening, there's actually a repeat, but that had an extra thing, so that's probably what I'm going to go watch. And then I'm resisting watching The Witcher. But I probably need to watch an episode of The Witcher. The problem is, I have a feeling if I start watching The Witcher, I will not stop. And that is a long series, and so I think it's 8 episodes, and they're an hour plus. So um, it's like Game of Thrones. It is serious concentration to pay going on, and it was really confusing. Um, uh, you're going to need to. I actually had to watch The Witcher twice to understand all of it. I enjoyed it. It was just like there was. It took me like 4 episodes to figure out that there was like moving forward and backwards in time, and I didn't get that until I know some other people are better at that. I was not recognizing that. But that's some good stuff. But that's just going to be my. I'm getting my little Netflix and chill. So we're getting closer. I'm gonna be right back. I need to use the restroom. I'm gonna be right back. Alright everybody, I'm back. I had to use the bathroom. So our tomatoes have caramelized quite well, almost to the point of burning the pan, but they are right where they need to be with almost no water. Quite close, almost done. Because this is how we make tomato paste, by the way. They reduce and reduce, and then they add a little bit of oil and keep reducing the water, and that's how you get tomato paste. But mine's more flavorful than normal tomato paste. Had a little bit of a burn here, so what we're going to do is we're going to swap pans. To another pan where you don't get that burn flavor inside of the meat. I have several of these pans. I cook in them all the time. And so, yeah. Almost done. Yep, it is. So what we're going to do is we're going to, in about a second, we're going to take the tomatoes and we're going to fry them in onions, and we're actually going to add tomato paste to it. So that you're like, but we're just making it. Well, no, consider mine a flavored base. And so I'm just using normal tomato paste. This is roasted garlic flavor because I like the taste of garlic. So that's why you noticed I didn't add any garlic to the water. Not because we do use garlic at home a little bit, not that much. It's just because I knew I was adding this particular flavor. That's why. So there we go. Oh yeah. This, you can tell it's done when it starts sticking to the bottom of your Teflon pan. That there's almost no water left in it, but still a little bit, so we're just going to keep going just a little bit before we add that oil, because it still has a lot to go with the onions. So spread it deep, wide and deep. Getting ourselves ready. By the way, you notice I don't add any salt to this because we already have salt in the water. And so this is going to go into the pot right here. And so you don't want to add salt to this. There's a little bit of natural salt in it. You guys can see a little bit better. Oh yeah. Good stuff. The good stuff. I'm actually going to get another Gatorade because I am getting dehydrated. It's kind of hot here, being in front of the stove. Oh, yeah. Okay, now it's starting to stick. You can kind of tell by right here at the back, it is starting to stick to the pan. And this is a Teflon pan, so that's when you know there's no more water left. So at this point, we add all of our onions. And I actually add the onions because what that will do is onions have water in them, so that will reduce the stick really quick whilst you go get your oil. So I use, you could use peanut oil, you could use corn oil, vegetable oil. I always use canola oil to fry, so it's the lowest fat. And so we're going to add canola oil to this. And keep this handy because sometimes you need to add more oil to keep it from sticking, even on a Teflon pan. There we go. And while that's going, now that it's not sticking, and let's just keep it. By the way, you're keeping this on your highest setting heat on your stove all this entire time. I've had it on super ginormous heat. That's what makes it faster, which means you can't leave here for too long at certain stages. So there we go. We're just adding our 2 cans of we're adding our 2 cans of my brain's not working, tomato paste. And you're just going to mix it all in. It eventually, the amount of stirring you're going to keep doing, it all mixes in. And it will mix together. We're going to be stirring and frying. And this step is what caramelizes the tomatoes. It's this step that we do with the oil and the onions that finally does that caramelization step. And so we're going to keep cooking this. Unfortunately, you really can't let this, especially if you're cooking as high heat as I'm cooking, you can't walk away from this too long because it will burn. And that, my friends, is not good eats. My homage to Alton Brown. Getting all the rest of that out there. Perfect. Wash your hands. I can already tell it needs a little bit more oil. Yeah, this is some good stuff. So I am just checking what's going on. Here in the stream. How interesting. So this is frying up nicely. Awesome sauce. Yep. So Oh yeah. Okay. Well, now that's going. Our moi moi has cooled, so you guys get to see the money shot. And so here is me putting it in. Look at that. Comes out perfectly. And that is what moi moi looks like. It is like this. So we're going to, as we keep stirring our food, we are going to taste it. So we're going to cut into it. So it cuts up like a piece. Oh my God, it's so good. Oh yes. Mm. Mm-mm-mm. Oh, and those peppers. Mmm. Man, my mom's gonna love this. My mom lives with me. She had a stroke a couple of years ago, so we take care of her. She can move around, but she needs taking, and so she asked for a lot of Nigerian food because I haven't made some in a while. So I'm making moi moi, some of her favorites. Oh, you're gonna love this. Mm. Mm. Yes. Mm-mm-mm. Let's get back to our stew. And so now that we're here, I'm gonna actually toss all this chicken inside of the water. It's not boiling. I actually put it on simmer, so we're just gonna put all of it in to the pot and get rid of all of these supercilious containers. And I don't know how easy it is to see, but this is what's going on here. This looks um, the onions are starting to get a little translucent. So, but you're gonna cook it way past that. You're gonna cook it until this is done. When the tomatoes start crumbling, so right now it's like this slurry of goop. It's gonna come into little bits like sand, but it's not burnt. It's gonna congeal together. Chemical reaction happens. It's gonna come together, and it's almost gonna be like little pieces of sand breaking to get up in the oil. And that's when you know it's done. This caramelization process will thicken the stew. I'm just gonna mix all that meat in. I'm just mixing that chicken in. And we're gonna add the other 2 things of chicken. These are just boneless, skinless thighs. I like my stews to have a lot of meat so that everybody gets a piece. Yeah, it is caramelizing up a storm. Yes, indeed. All right. I'm just going to mix all that chicken in so it's all inside of the water. Remember, I've turned this off, so I'm going to test a piece of the meat just to see that it hasn't overcooked while it's been in the warm water. Oh, no, it has not. It's close to done, but not done, which is perfect. Also tell this can use a set of, you could tell when I tasted that, this can use a little bit of bouillon cube. Like I said, it's okay because it's off, it'll boil. Because what we're going to do is we're going to cook the chicken in the stew, just like we cooked in the egusi soup. So as the stew thickens, it will be the flavor of the tomatoes and the onions and everything else will be seep right into that chicken. So every piece of chicken that you eat is going to be delicious. Add to bouillon. Oh, yes, right. Our tomatoes are caramelizing away, caramelizing away. Hi-ho, the way we go, we're caramelizing away. I know, that's incredibly corny. For those of you who know me, I'm incredibly corny. It just is what it is. Hi, Just Play Games. Make me know that you already know what the hell you're doing. I know. This gas top stove is exactly, I love this thing. I absolutely love this thing. And so, like I said, since you just kind of came in, this is some Nigerian cooking. And so we have just made moi moi, which is a bean curd steamed. This is the moi moi well, the half of it because I've been eating it. You take black-eyed peas because we got to eat black-eyed peas on New Year's. Black-eyed peas, you peel off the outside of it, grind it up, put some African spices, some corned beef, and you steam it for half an hour to an hour. And you get that. It is heavenly. We're making a Nigerian stew. So we've taken meat, we've been boiling some chuck beef and goat. I just added the chicken, but I've turned it off, so the chicken's just sitting there in hot water. It'll be fine. And while we are caramelizing the tomatoes, so we took several cans of petite diced tomatoes, we blended it. I added a little bit of brown sugar inside, and so now we take all of that and we reduced it, kind of like you're making, strangely, like you're making tomato paste. And then once it got all the water down, then we add oil and onions, and I actually added more tomato paste because we want a really big stew. And we're now frying it in that oil, which is caramelizing the tomatoes down. The tomatoes, so we cook it at your highest heat, and that's what we're doing. It's going to probably be about 15 or 20 more minutes while this caramelizes down. Maybe not. We'll see how this goes. It may go faster because this particular eye of my burner is like something like 16,000 BTUs or something crazy. So this is the nuking eye, as I like to call it. So, and that means you kind of have to keep your hands on this as it's frying. Otherwise, bad things are going to happen. So you just kind of have to keep watching it. And so, yep, we are just getting closer and closer and closer to being done. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's caramelizing right on nicely. Let me take a little swig of my Gatorade. You've been cooking for a long time. It's easy to get tired. So there we go. So getting closer. Oh yeah. Oh, it's interesting. I can feel the temperature dropping. It is now in the about 60s, if not. Um, I'm thinking it's about close to. It's getting close to 50, about 60 degrees alone. So it's kind of interesting. We're having this huge temperature drop here in Texas. So a cold front's coming down from Canada. So I think it hit the rest of the nation. We're just here in Houston at the last tip of it. So it was today's high was 86, 84, 86, somewhere around there, and it already has dropped down to 63. That's what my app says, and I'm thinking by 1 in the morning it's going to be mid 50s. First thing in the morning it will be around 36. So we have these huge temperature drops in 9 hours here in Texas that are kind of a little bit insane. And so uh, just checking chat. Like I said, I gotta get my setup better so I can see the chat easier. I figured out kind of what I want to do to make that work better. Yeah. Oh yeah, it is caramelizing away. Mm-hmm. Good stuff. Oh yeah, good stuff. Done. We'll be done soon. Making stew is a long process, but it's a labor of love. Loved making Nigerian food for my mom, and my husband actually eats it too. He likes it. He doesn't like the egusi soup as much, but not badly. He loves the stew, and he likes eating moi moi. Ah, gotta keep hydrated. Alrighty. Oh yeah. Keep your hands off of this for too long. It's getting there. It is. So I'm gonna see if I can show this a little bit better. Switch camera angles. Um, so if it's actually really hot. The arm is actually really hot. So if you kind of take a look, all that steam, but you see how it's starting to flake off. It's not that glue. You notice it's not that goo anymore. It's flaking off. Now we're getting close to it being done. That's what I meant by sort of sand. Before, when you work the tomatoes, it was this big goop, and now it's less goop. It starts falling apart. That's when you know the tomatoes are caramelized, when it gets there. So we're getting close. I said this burner is my nuclear burner, so it makes things go a lot faster. This is the part of this where you have to stand here. The other parts, reducing the tomatoes down. No, you didn't have to be here. Boiling the meat, you don't have to be here. But letting this caramelize, you gotta watch here because you gotta stir. Otherwise, it will burn. And all this hours of work ruin your Teflon pan. Yeah, and it will burn Teflon pan easily if you're not careful. Um, and so you just kind of have to watch it. But yeah, this is gonna cook down. Oh yeah, this is going so good. Yes, indeed. Woohoo! And so, yeah, this is awesome. I'm just checking my chat. Yeah. Oh, we're getting so close. I can feel it. It's probably about 10 minutes more, maybe less than that. And that's the other thing about when you're caramelizing tomatoes. It will just kind of be, it's a strange, interesting reaction. Because what will happen is you're kind of going, and vroom, really quickly. It goes from um, kind of loosely falling apart to way done, and you can burn it. Um, there's like this there's this tipping point that happens. So you gotta watch. We're getting close to that place, so this is especially when you really can't watch this. If you have to go to the bathroom, turn the fire off, and come back and turn it back on. It works easier if you're on a gas stove um, or an induction cooktop. I'm not too much of a fan because they're all glass, but I'm waiting for them to change the designs of those. I really like my gas cooktop a lot. Makes it so much easier to know kind of what's going on. Yep, yep, yep. Oh yeah, it's caramelizing away. This is some good stuff. Make sure you spread it as well. Um, yep, that is awesome. And we are so close. Woo! Yes, indeed. I get excited when you're getting close to the end. Okay. You can come into the frame, honey, if you want to. My husband's trying to avoid being on the camera. He's being sweet, but it's okay. We're getting closer. Yep. Oh yeah, we're almost there. It's forming chunks now. Yep. And make sure when you're stirring like this, you gotta really flip it around, make all the pieces, and make sure you hit the pan because pieces of it will stick to the spoon, and you don't want that. You don't want that at all. There we go. Woohoo! Awesome sauce. Yep. Yep, we are almost there. Oh yeah. Yeah, you start getting darker bits, and the color of the tomato starts going from a blood red, I'm sorry, from a bright red to a blood red. So you'll see some little black bits. They're not quite burned. That's umami. Umami is some good stuff. That you want to have that umami. You don't want burn, you want umami, which is that stuff that happens when you fry or deglaze a pan. There we go. Oh yeah, it's maybe 3 or 4 more minutes and it's done. I just so ooh, that's hot. It's not burning hot, it's just too hot to lift. There you go, just so you guys can see what this is looking like. This is, I'm trying to get that faucet out of the way. But yeah, that's what this looks like. You notice, you see that? It's just falling apart. It's no more goop. So we're almost there. About 2, 3 more, couple more minutes and we are done. And so since we're just a couple of minutes on, we're gonna turn our meat on so we can start raising the temperature because it's been off for a long time. Yep. Yay. Yep, it goes very quickly. This is that point of, if you're not watching it, it'll go burnt. Well, not quite burnt, but it goes very quickly to a place that you don't want it to be. So you gotta watch it right now. And what we're going to do is we're going to, once it's done, we're going to transfer this into there, and I'm going to move this pot to the giant eye so it can come up to temp speed. And what happens is we're going to then bring it to a boil, stir really well, and then we're going to take it down to a simmer till the chicken is cooked. By the time the chicken is cooked, the tomato umami has thickened the sauce. And we have stew. We serve stew over fried plantains and rice. We eat a lot of rice in Nigeria. So rice is a staple for us. We eat a lot of it in many different ways, just usually plain white rice. Long grain is typically the kind of grain that we have in Nigeria. So yeah. I'm just kind of leaving this here. And basically, you know it's done when you do this kind of thing and it just kind of slides right off the spoon, because that's what happens when you've fully caramelized your tomatoes. All right. Oh yeah. And you can tell there's not a lick of water left in it. And to this point, oh yeah, now we're there. Like, it's so quick. Like, it changed a couple of stirs, and I was like, whoo! It just like a huge puff of steam just went, and it is actually done now. And so it's gonna keep it for a second more, but I'm switching cameras so you guys can see. This is what it looks like. So you see how it is not sticking at all. See that? And just like that. It is not sticking at all. So now that it's done, we're going to add the whole container into the meat, just like that. Oil and everything, get all them little bits in there. All them little bits. Then we are going to take this pot, turn off that eye, and move it to the nuking eye. We'll take this egusi soup, since it's smaller, and put it right here, where the other one used to be. So this one can cook in its piece. So, and for you guys wanting to see what this is looking like, I'm not even going to mix it before I do. It looks like there's a lot of water, but what's going to happen is, this is what this looks like right now. And so we're going to stir this, and so that it's all in there. Take these. There we go. So that's all in there. We've put the heat to the highest because we want this to boil. There we go. Let's mix all of that in there. You don't even need to mix it too well because it's going to move around. And we're just going to cover it. And we're going to let it boil. Yeah, we're definitely going to let it boil. And that should take about 5 or 6 minutes before it starts to boil. Once it boils, we're going to take it down to a simmer and let it simmer for about 15, really until the chicken's done. And you can tell when the chicken's done. That's how I make my stew. And you get a very delicious stew in pieces of meat. So now this is there, I'm kind of soaking the pot in the really hot pan we just did. And doing a little bit of cleaning makes it easier the next day, or when things kind of cool down, to do your full cleaning. There we go. And get our paper towels really quick and get our surface really clean. And the stew's starting to boil. And it's even thickening. Let me show you what this looks like. Close up. You see that? That is a stew. So we are almost done. So what we're going to do now is, you all have not seen what the egusi soup looks like, so I am going to get a spoon and we're going to take a little taste because it's completely done. Yep, I'm just getting, I want to see if I can get a piece of the stockfish there. There we go. I'll leave a piece of chicken in there, but What you doing in here, Noel? My little kitty cat Noel just walked in here randomly. I think he's looking for my husband. But this is egusi soup. And it's still hot. And I think the close-up cam I can actually get a better view of it. And so that's egusi soup. It's like I said, we normally eat this with fufu. But you also lick it, as we like to say. This is when you eat it plain without the fufu, and that's what I'm about to do right now. And it's actually really, really hot, still in the pot. So as you can see, I think you can see the steam coming off of it. But this is some good stuff. Oh my God, yes, it came out great. Ooh, it's really hot though. Hot from, not from pepper, hot from temperature. Oh yeah, we're gonna eat that together with our piece of. We're gonna eat that together with our piece of moi moi. Okay, our stew is now boiling vigorously. You want to get it up to a vigorous boil, and you want to stir it, so just in case if pieces of it are sticking, you don't want that. Then you turn it to your lowest, to a low, not a medium low. You want it on low. And let it simmer for 15 to 20 minutes. Um, and it's already, the caramelization has already completed. Um, and so it has thickened. And actually, you can actually eat the soup itself. I'm sorry, the stew by itself. You can actually take it out right now, pieces of it, so you can see. Because I'm going to end the stream pretty soon. Um, so you can actually take a little bit of the stew right now, because the stew parts are actually done. I'm going to bring a little bit of, so you guys can see what I've been making all this time. But the meat's not done. And so I'm going to do the close-up cam. And this is what stew looks like in its container. Let's see if I can move that down a little bit. There you go. That's what stew looks like. And you can taste it right now. I actually have not tasted this. I just kind of know what it's going to. Oh my God. Oh, yes. Put this on some rice and plantain. It's going to be excellent. So, there you have it, everybody. This is our Nigerian cooking for the new year. I'm Martin Oviozer, and again, it's been wonderful for those of you who've been here watching, cooking with me, sharing some of our African traditions, known as staples that we cook with. And so we made moi moi, which is a bean curd. Basically, you're going to take beans, not any kind of beans, black-eyed peas, shell them, remove the skin, soak them, grind them, and then you mix them with spices, onions, peppers, oil. I like to put corned beef. A lot of the other cultures put things like sardines and hard-boiled eggs. And then we're going to steam it inside of a container. Normal moi moi in Nigeria is made with banana leaves, so you actually steam it in banana leaves. And this is, I realized in talking to you guys earlier, this is our form of my brain has stopped working right now. Tamales. This is our form of tamales. So tamales have come in Mexico. This is cooked a similar way. Tamales are made with masa, which is cornmeal, and they're wrapped in corn husks and steamed. We wrap ours in banana leaves and make it with beans, so a similar dish. Then we made egusi soup, EGUSI, which is a melon that we grow in Nigeria. Take the seeds out, dry it, then we bake it and bake the seeds, very similar to making pumpkin seeds when you guys during the fall. But then we take those seeds and grind them into a powder, and that becomes the egusi spice. So we put that. It's what you just saw with spinach, dawa dawa, our crayfish. And we will eat that with fufu, which is a dough-like substance. All the African cultures have fufu. It's the soups that differentiate our different ethnic groups, our different, not really countries, really ethnic groups. Because you'll find as you learn more about Africa, where the borders are drawn are not quite where the different ethnic groups sit. Oftentimes the colonizers would divide an ethnic group so that one side of the border is half of the ethnic group, which weakens their population because they're between national borders. So it's interesting that some of our foods cross borders, but they don't cross ethnic groups. Then the last thing we made is stew, which is eaten with fried plantains. If you guys don't know what a plantain looks like, I have one here. Just got that, it's just ripened. This is a plantain. Looks like a large banana. It is not a banana. Cannot eat this raw. It will make your stomach you gotta cook it. Bananas can be eaten raw. Plantains, not so much. Piece of something fell here. So we fry the plantain. You chop it up and fry it in oil. And eat it on top of rice, or rice with plantains, or sometimes rice with beans, or rice with yams and stuff like that. So that's how you eat that. So these are 3 great staples from my homeland, and I've really enjoyed cooking with all of you. I hope you guys have a happy new year. I hope all is well. I hope you have your dreams fulfilled to a great 2022. All right? Take care, everybody, until next stream.